Our second demand is to immediate and unconditional release of all political prisoners and prisoners on conscience, including journalists, students, and civil society activists. An end to state-sponsored violence and accountability for the crime committed. And number 4, for freedom of assembly, freedom of expression, and freedom of press as guaranteed by Iran's obligation under international covenant that has signed. The reality of our world to gender, race, economic, and social stratification. The recent uprising and the faces of brave Iranians demanding accountability made all the second generation of all of us that they are present here proud of the heritage of being Iranian and being brave and demanding their rights. The non-violent struggle and the creative forms of civil disobedience in Iran is writing new pages in the history of more than 100 years of a struggle of Iranian people for equality, democracy, and freedom. Let us keep the spirit of United for Iran today here in LA and continue to build the broadest coalition ever in the city that has the largest community of Iranian in diaspora, and continue to work with each other to support the plight of Iranian for democracy and human rights, and to be the voice of Iranian people in United States. Thank you very much.
Elahe Amani, one more time, please, for her words. Okay, I've been asked to ask the people in the front to sit down on the ground. Now, I know some of you have very nice clothes, so I don't expect it. We're Persian, after all. What if we give you tea and khurma? Can we bring some dates and tea? Anyone? Anyone? Can you guys hear us in the back? Can you hear us? All right. That's what I'm talking about. Thank you, thank you. Wow, this is great. I've never seen Persians so well behaved. We are changing, people. I must say, as an Iranian American, I've always tried to present us in a positive light whenever I can, in the news and in the media and whenever I can. And when I saw the peaceful protests in Iran, it really made me proud, because I thought that was the most positive thing we've seen out of Iran, these peaceful protests, and it was really amazing. And I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you got the email that there's, people are using going Iranian as a verb. Yeah. Did you hear about this? Yeah. There's a story of some students in a high school in New York that wanted to do, wanted to protest their principal, and they said, we need to go Iranian on that principal, which means peaceful protesting. So, hey, we're changing. Things are changing, people. We're getting rid of the not without my daughter image. Jeez, that thing took a while. All right, the next speaker this afternoon is Pardis Patrick Ashuri. Mr. Ashuri is a California attorney and the principal of Ashuri Law Offices in Los Angeles. He received his bachelor in law in '89 and his JD in '92. He currently serves on the board and was a former president of the Iranian American Lawyers Association. He's serving a 2-year term as a trustee of the Los Angeles County Bar Association. He is also as a volunteer, a temporary judge. He's been a temporary judge as a volunteer, has served on the Los Angeles County Superior Court's Judge Pro Tem panel since 1997. Please welcome Mr. Pardis Patrick Ashuri.
با درود و سپاس به هموطنان عزیز و با تشکر از برگزارندگان برنامه امروز، به خصوص خانم الهه امانی. I'm honored and privileged to be here on behalf of the Iranian American Lawyers Association. The Iranian American Lawyers Association is the first Iranian American Lawyers Association which was established in 1994 and is a non-profit organization made up of attorneys, law students, and judges. IALA is an affiliate member of the Los Angeles County Bar Association, the largest bar association in the United States. We at IALA wholeheartedly believe in equal rights, access to justice, due process, and protection of civil rights and liberties for all Americans alike. IALA's mission, amongst many others, is uniting for a collective action, maintaining honor and integrity in legal profession, providing pro bono legal services, as well as actively establishing an understanding and agreement in policy and practice with city, county, state, and federal law enforcement regarding due process and access to counsel. IALA is also a member of multicultural advisory committees of the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, and local law enforcement agencies. Shortly after the June 12th elections in Iran, and in light of news and reports related to the demonstrations and peaceful protests of the Iranian people in Iran in opposition to the legitimacy of the presidential election results and the documented and broadcasted continued and ongoing human rights violations of the unprecedented number of Iranian protesters, the Iranian American Lawyers Association on June 15th issued its press release condemning the violence against peaceful protesters and called on to the United Nations to appoint an independent commission to immediately look into the ongoing human rights violations of peaceful protesters in Iran, to demand an immediate stop of all human rights violations of the demonstrators, and to investigate and address the voting irregularities in order to respect the vote of the Iranian people. On June 24th, the Board of Directors of the Iranian American Lawyers Association, expressing support for all peaceful Iranian protesters in Iran who exercise and respect the value of their freedom, human rights, and civil liberties, resolved and announced the following resolution: condemning the use of violence against Iranian demonstrators by the government and pro-government militias, expressing its demand for immediate cessation of all violence against the Iranian demonstrators, condemning the ongoing government suppression of independent electronic communication through interference with the communications, internet, and cell phones. Also condemning the expulsion and arrest of news reporters and suppression of free press. We acknowledge and affirm the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the importance of democratic and fair elections, and we express our demand for an immediate appointment of an independent commission to identify the human rights violations of the Iranian protesters, to include relief and release of all Iranian protesters who were arrested, to determine the identity of the human rights violators, to identify the violations, to redress the grievances, and to cause remedies for the victims and their families, and to investigate and address the voting irregularities in order to respect the vote of the Iranian people. Shortly thereafter, on June 23rd, IALA issued the following petition to the United Nations, which I ask each and every one of you. There are some petitions here that are going around, but you can go online on ialawyers.org. We do not require last name, last initial will suffice. So far we have gathered over 1,000 signatures, and we hope by this publicity and others to increase that number tenfold, and by September forward it to the United Nations.